Welcome back to ABV TV. Today we will be drinking another beer from the fine team at Coopers, their Hazy IPA. So, another hazy beer. What a surprise. What a surprise. This time is Cooper's Hazy IPA, their limited release, limited edition beer, which I still keep seeing popping up. So, I don't know how limited it is, or maybe it's just a bit old. But first thing we'll notice is that's not hazy. That's not hazy at all. That just looks like a standard IPA. It's a lovely colour. It's a nice golden, light golden colour there, but for a hazy IPA, you would expect it to not be so clear. Head-wise, it's not too bad. Was a bit more of a fuller head on initial pour, but no, it's still settled down to a half decent head there. Aroma wise, I'm actually getting a little bit more of an earthy herbal kind of an aroma, a little bit more sort of a spicy aroma. So I don't know if that's a sign of the fact that maybe this beer is a little bit older or what the go may be. Just going to give it a swirl around in the glass here, see if it brings out any further aromas. It is a little bit of a spiciness to it, which something you don't expect from a hazy IPA. No, maybe a more traditional IPA will get a bit more of that sort of on the nose, that peppery, spicy kind of a nose. Any flavour that I'm getting out of this is pretty subdued. So this beer I have had it in the past, obviously. I've had it in cans and on tap. And why I think that this one may be a touch older is because I think the first time I had this was nearly a year ago in itself, and it was supposedly a limited release. So whether this is really old or they've put it back out again, I'm not 100% sure. I don't research for whatever reason. It'd probably make this a lot better if I did, but anyway. Point I was making is that when I first had this beer, I remember I was quite put off by the hop flavors that were in it. I don't remember if it was actually any more hazy than this. It could be, don't remember. But I do remember that I was a bit put off by the hops used and the flavour in this beer, and I wasn't really sold on it. And talking to a mate of mine, he thought it was trash, just did not like it whatsoever. Talking to another friend and he was like, do you recommend it? And I was like, look, give it a shot. I always say, give everything a go, but it may not be what you're expecting. Then I had a second one and it was different, and I started to like it and appreciate it a little bit more. And then a few months later, I had it on tap. I was out at a lunch with ex-work colleagues and had a couple of scooters of this on tap and really fell in love with it. I realized that actually, no, I really do like this. This is a really good beer. And yeah, was kind of keen to find it again and have more of it, but I couldn't. And then a friend of mine had a couple left over and said, hey, do you want these? I'm not a fan. I went, yeah, sure, I'll have it because it's going to be perfect to review for here for the YouTube people. And again, now the beer is different again. It isn't how I remembered it in terms of that flavour. As I said, it's more subdued. There's a little bit of bitterness and a little bit of a herbal resiny sort of a flavour. But how I remember it was more kind of like, there's a bit more of like a lemon flavour to it from what I originally remember. Whatever it is, I thought it's kind of unique for a hazy IPA in terms of flavour profile, and just from an IPA in general. Coopers do actually say what the hops are in this one, which is cool, and it's Antium, and Strata, which off the top of my head I can't remember what those hop profile flavors for those two particular hops are meant to be. So I don't know whether this is just an older beer or whether that's just how it is now. Great review. Should probably put more work and research into this, be a bit more serious. But yeah, so I'm kind of complexed at how this beer is now. I was kind of expecting something that was going to be a little bit different, but instead I've gotten this, and I know by no means am I saying it's horrible or anything like that, but no, I think if it was a fresher beer, this would be a different review, and I'd be able to give a bit more of an indication of what the flavour is like. But otherwise, I'm really giving you just as it's a little sweet, it's a little a little sort of a spicy sort of floral herbal kind of a flavour. The thing that comes to mind is rocket, the lettuce. I'm not saying that's exactly what it tastes like, but that's kind of what comes to mind. In terms of the fact that it's not what you think it's going to be, and it's a little bit different for what it is. But yeah, look, I'd say that if you do see one out there, try it, like anything. But I've got a feeling that this may be a touch old if you are seeing anything out there at this point in time. There may be a re-release. There may have been a re-release, and they've changed the hops, and that's why it's a little bit different. But from what I remember initially, yeah, this beer is completely different. I wonder if it's going to improve with a bit of time in the glass, but no, it hasn't. And again, no, it's not hazy. Granted, I haven't poured all of the beer, but I doubt it's going to be any different. Maybe like all Cooper's beers, they've got yeast stuck down the bottom, so that will change things up a little bit, and it has a touch. It's a little bit more opaque now, but yeah, it's getting a little bit more closer to a hazy. Flavor's still the same. Hasn't changed too much, but yeah. Again, being a Cooper, you probably should give it a bit of a roll before you pour. But I think if I've mentioned maybe in previous videos, I don't usually like doing that because that's usually where the yeast for secondary fermentation live, and I'm not a massive fan of that flavour. But okay, well, it's canned in August 2, 2020, so it's 7 or 8 months old now. So that may be the thing. I suppose with hazies, they are one of those things that you probably should drink fresher. Like all IPAs, the longer you leave them, the more flavors will change and subside. There's hop oils and hop aromas kind of drop out of it a little bit, and that's probably what's happened with this particular beer. But I'm still going to drink it anyway because it's beer. As I said before, I'm not going to tip it down the drain. Anyway, at 6.2%, so it's in the range for IPAs. It's interesting that Coopers have started to sort of branch out a little bit. For the longest time, it was just the pale. I keep forgetting they do a stout as well, don't they? And the sparkling ale, which I did review a little while ago. So if you just go through the channel, you'll find it. But yeah, it's really been in the last few years where they've really branched out into their mid, their session, the XPA, I think is now in their core range, and they've obviously had to go with the hazy. They did do an IPA 3 or 4 years ago for Gab's Beer Festival. I remember because I think it was the Brew A, which they made an extract homebrew kit for. But yeah, so they're starting to do a little bit more. They do a homebrew competition where there was the winner last year was the beer was called Fruit of the Woods or Fruit in the Woods, and it was a very sort of fruity IPA, not quite traditional West Coast, but not quite East Coast either. It was kind of in between. It was a pretty good beer. But yeah, they're starting to experiment a little bit more. Coopers, Hazy IPA. If you do see one around, go out and get him and try him. But I feel if they don't re-release it and you're finding one now, she's going to be a little bit like the one I'm drinking. Not fantastic. If, I keep forgetting this, if you like my rambling while drinking, you can subscribe to this shit. There'd be a little thing down below for you to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, drop a comment, tell me what you think of this beer if you've had this beer, tell me what I've missed out in terms of how I describe this beer as well, and let me know if they have re-released it. Because I'm probably not going to go back and look for that now. It's what's done is done, and I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the rest of this beer. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you again next time around.